Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I'm John Hallett, joined with Josh Hammerling.
Hello.
Said he was going to get a buzz if we get 1 million subscribers.
Hold on, say it again. No. What do you
See,
mean by
that's not
buzz?
even,
I will have a drink and get a buzz. Yes, absolutely. Like if we get to that million subscriber mark, I'll do that. Yeah, it's fine.
oh, yeah, you're going to get a buzz. Yeah, drink 1 beer. No, you're shaving
Mm,
your head. If we get 1 million views,
I don't like that would. That's a step I've never taken. You know that, right? Like I've never cut my hair super short. I don't think I'm ready for that. I can't handle change, John.
I can't hit a change. Uh, well, we're talking about the journey up. Last week, we talked about kind of beginner stages, white belt, that, you know, yellow belt, and, orange belt, I would kind of say. And today we're talking about intermediate, which I think is really tough. It can be a grind.
Mhm.
Honeymoon's over. A lot of
Yeah,
times, like that initial excitement is done, and it's okay. Grab your gym bag or get ready to go
yeah,
and push yourself through it. Where I think a lot of people, oh, well, I could probably vacuum the house. That sounds, oh,
sure.
I really need to do that
Like
versus get to the gym.
the way I've kind of looked at it, the way you've described it, it's like the start of novice because you've got beginners. And if you really want to start, you've got to become a novice at it, right? And you're at the beginning of the novice stage. And reaching black belt is like the end of the novice going into something else. So that's kind of the way I've been like structuring that in my head. And the way I see the middle belts for me is that like the grind begins, like you said. Is that where you were at when the journey began there? Like you got to those middle belts and all of a sudden did you grab your gym bag and spend those? Because you've talked about some serious hours just throwing kicks and punches and stuff like that. Is that when a lot of that grind started for you?
No, not for me personally. I mean, I think a lot of people will drop out at that rate, that zone there. I was still having fun, but a lot of people, they get in there, they think they've kind of got it figured out, out of that basic, intermediate. Sometimes I relate them to, okay, you're in elementary school, you're in middle school, you're in high school, you're in college, or a career, and you're just starting out in that career and you're just learning it. It's kind of the same thing: basic, intermediate, advanced, and then on to your expert or black belt level of training.
Mm.
So I was still having fun. I liked it, but definitely fighting the plateaus and feeling like you're not getting better.
What do you mean by a plateau? Like you just started doing the same thing? It just felt repetitive for you? I mean,
No,
that's
like, you're just not feeling like you're making gains.
okay.
At the beginning, you're learning stuff and you get that initial boost. You've never thrown a good hook punch, you've never been taught
Sure.
how to throw an uppercut, all of these things. And then you kind of plateau out. You're not really getting any better. And that's where sometimes, a lot of times, people feel like they have got it figured out
Mhm.
and there's nothing else. Like, I got this stuff. Oh, yeah, I know how to do it. I'm good at this.
But yeah, I've
And
done that.
you're a whole lot
But
better than you were when you started. You've
yeah.
done that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, well, I mean, and I've heard people, and that's the other saying I've heard from people is, yeah, I've done that. I got it. I've done it. Yeah, I got it. And it's just kind of, it's like you don't because, if I was to throw that, whatever it may be, 10 times, like maybe two of those are good. Maybe not even one, right? They're close. And I like that bit of refinement. So did you find yourself refining things too at the mid-level point? I mean, that's probably why people get so discouraged, right? Is that like the big high of learning how to throw it has ended, and now it's just chiseling away and getting it better and better and better.
Yeah. Um, I don't know how I felt there. I mean, I just kept grinding through. I enjoyed throwing punches, so it was never tedious to me. Where,
Mhm,
sometimes people get bored by it. Like, all right, I'm just throwing punches again. Just doing this. I'm just throwing another front kick. I know how to throw a front kick. Where, part of the, it's a good workout
mhm. Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
You just put that mindset on of like, all right, just getting reps.
Mhm.
So I enjoyed it. But I feel, especially sometimes with self-defense, people think they have it figured out.
Yeah. Now, when you say you were enjoying it, how many times a week were you in? I mean, were you in every day, twice a day, 3 times on Sunday if they'd let you?
No, they didn't have classes like that, like our structure. No, I was probably going 4 days a week, and then I think we had a class on Saturday, or I would train on Saturday, Sunday at my house and do
Wow.
my own thing
Yeah. So you were
in
still
there.
grinding away there. And
So
that's a crazy level of commitment. And so did you make space in your house to start training there too? Like I'm just fleshing out what your life looked like, training at these middle
not at
levels.
that stage, not at that point did I. I
No.
mean, I had one, but that was down the line when
Mhm.
I started teaching. So
Oh.
I was just telling a client, like, I used to do this down a hallway.
Mhm.
You don't need anything elaborate, you know,
Right.
do it in your family room. Just don't punch your TV.
Just the will to do it, just to train, to throw those
Yeah,
punches a
I
little
would
bit.
mess around at work. I would
Yeah.
practice moves at work for a quick minute, like
Yeah.
just thinking about it and just doing it.
Right.
So practicing those movements. I used to practice my patterns, you know,
Oh, yeah.
coffee break, especially if like there was nobody else on the job site. Coffee break, I'd like whatever I did last night, like something new, especially
Sure.
just trying
Sure.
to get the steps down to each move, which is the same thing of, just thinking about each step on a self defense technique. You can
Yeah.
mock it up. It's harder to mock things up without somebody there, but you can certainly get that mental rep in there.
Sure. Yeah,
So,
and how often do you find yourself in the middle belts thinking differently about technique now? Because when you're a white belt, you don't know how to think. I didn't even know how to replay what I did in my head at a white belt because I couldn't remember. I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm remembering some steps. Some of it's just gone. But like, did you start the replays in your head because you've got a really good, like this crazy ability to replay what happened in your head and analyze it? Is that starting to show up at this mid-level range for you, or is it just a skill
probably, I
you
mean, a
have?
lot of it was mental reps, of just like playing a sport, of just thinking about it and playing it in your head, just like a football play, just like, being at bat as a, baseball player,
Mhm.
you know, seeing yourself hit that pitch, seeing the good swing. It's the same thing of, seeing a punch come at you, see the
Sure.
redirection, see the counterattack,
Attack,
see where
yeah.
they're going next, is
The
doing that
next,
mental training
yeah,
is really valuable.
yeah. The
Is
going to
going through in your
next,
head. So I
yeah,
did. It was probably starting to show up there because I did it in football. So I would
okay.
see myself,
So it really
doing
sports are
whatever in
really helped,
Taekwondo.
really.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's a really cool skill, but it's also really, I mean, it's super useful as you journey through your martial arts because you can do mental reps in your head if you're injured or if you just don't, you can't get to it. Like being able to sit there and see yourself doing it over and over in the head helps too. And then is this kind of in the stage where you started time? I mean, you already had good body movement, right? You already knew kind of, yeah, Taekwondo under your belt for a long time. So did you find your movements more refined, or is that really what you started just
well, that's where
grinding
like
away
that
at?
overlap of, I was a second degree black belt in Taekwondo, and you're kind of referring to Krav Maga.
Mhm.
Um, so that journey's a little overlapping, with being a beginner and Taekwondo and martial arts. And even though, some aspects of Krav Maga felt like starting over, but, I had all the front kicks down. Um, Krav Maga definitely refined striking, punching,
Mhm.
elbows. We didn't do a lot of that stuff in Taekwondo. So, I had to get all sorts of reps there, but kicks, I had a ton of practice on.
Yeah.
So,
And you've landed some kicks on me that I'm like, good Lord, where'd that come from? So yeah, like that helped, right? On your journey there.
yeah,
So
that's putting in the reps. That's putting
yeah,
in the reps where it's unconscious thought that you can just throw a kick without
yeah,
any conscious thought, without telegraphing.
yeah.
It's
Which
putting in the reps. That's the hard part, people. That's
Yeah,
tough.
you got to find one that you can do, right? Let alone a bunch of them, which is really, really hard to do. And that's so is that really part of the mid belt journey there for you? Is that where, I mean, we know that's where the time comes in to throw those kicks over and over. So, did you have any favorite kind of training things that you would do, like stuff on the bag? Did you have a workout that you throw in there at this time to get you through the grind?
Oh, I mean, I do Bas Rutten all the time.
Boss Rutten, yeah,
Yeah, either shadow boxing or the heavy bag workout or his all around workout, which we've got some similar things that I've done on ClearSky.Training.
yeah,
I've thrown those on there for our students so they can, just do an audio workout, which I always feel like when I do an audio workout with somebody else setting the pace, it's harder to keep up with versus your
yeah,
own workout. Like, all right, I'm going to hit the bag. I'm going to hit it
yeah,
for 2 minutes. When you have somebody else calling out combos and trying to keep up with that, I feel
yeah.
like you work out harder than you would typically. Not that you can't have
Sure,
I've had plenty of hard, heavy bag workouts where I had, you know, no motivation whatsoever with audio or trying to keep
sure.
up. It's just me hitting the bag. Um, but I love doing that stuff. I mean, I did tons of shadow boxing
Yeah, in front of a
at the
mirror.
yes and no.
Yeah, just is whenever you get it in, right? You're out there throwing punches,
Yeah, I mean, as part
kicks.
of my workout, I do at least 30 minutes, sometimes a day of striking just shadow boxing
Wow, wow.
in there.
Yeah,
That was no ifs, ands, or buts. Like
sure,
that's where, a lot of hours came from people, just putting in the grind. You
sure.
put in the grind, doing that several times a week. There was days like there was stints where I would hit the heavy bag 5 6 days a week, or heavy bag shadow box for 30 minutes. I forget which coach said it, if it was Sam Sadeh. Somebody was referring to a fighter that they knew or trained with, or maybe in association with, like Bas Rutten way back when. However,
Mhm.
and they just talked about, they said a story like some guy that they train, and this guy would stand in front of the mirror and throw punches for 30, 40 minutes.
Months.
Just,
Yeah.
the guy putting in the extra work.
Mhm.
And that really stuck in my head. I was like, yeah, put in, this guy's
Sure.
doing it. He's super high level, pro fighter, and he's still staying after the workout, just even to do slow, easy stuff,
Who's kind
because go
so
ahead.
at this time, who's helping mentoring you through this? Is there a lot of self motivation, or, I mean, who are you reaching out to get that little extra? Hey, man, like I've got to move. I want to keep moving up, right? So who are
Well,
you talking to? What's your training?
beginner, beginner, well, intermediate kind of stuff. I think, there was a lot of different people that I have contact with. I probably wasn't training with I wouldn't say, I'd say that was a little bit more advanced, that I was training with my buddy Dennis in Boston. But, I had Jack, I actually brought up some old pictures we referred to last week. So from left to right, that's my buddy Jack. He was my first assistant. That's my very first instructor. Next to him in the Team Michael shirt, that's super old, is Sam. He was my first instructor there. And then that's me, John Whitman.
Oh, there
And
it is.
that
Yeah.
guy was the next guy is Steve Spoth. He was the regional training center in New York, like upstate New York. And we're
Wow.
at America's Best Karate right there. So,
Wow.
um, Jack and I were good buddies. He helped me move up through training. So I worked a lot with him. And since we're on these pictures and kind of flashing back, this is a old buddy, um, Chris. I feel like he played football, but he was way younger than me. So, like,
Yeah.
I think I was again in that leadership role with him right there, and he's doing like sparring and Taekwondo. Master Miller's on the right, me in the middle, and Tom. Oh, Tom, what was Tom's last name? Goodness, it'll come to me after the podcast.
Man, did you fall on that floor? Ouch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You're so nice to us with the beautifully soft floors.
Yeah, when I tell I'm like, I've fallen doing axe kicks,
Boom.
falling all the time on there. Actually, there's another picture somewhere. I'm like, ooh,
That's a
that
gym
Bill
floor
took me
too.
down
Ooh.
in there, but I think this is Jack's wedding, Master Miller and I.
Wow.
There, I think that's the Harbor House on Nantucket. Anybody's been there.
Nope, never
And
been.
here's a tournament on a on a wood gymnasium floor. So, and
Wow.
it looks like that might be a red belt. I don't think that's an orange belt in that picture. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, some fun flashbacks. So, like, where are you going to train for these middle belts too? Like, once you're inside of there, you're flying
well,
out.
for Krav Maga, we were going. It was North Attleboro, and then one, I guess we'd say green belt is kind of in that intermediate zone.
Yeah.
There was upstate New York. I don't forget the town. It was really close to where they play the Little League World Series. What is that town?
In Cooperstown? No,
No, that's the Hall of Fame.
is that Hall of Fame? I don't know baseball,
Yeah,
clearly.
I don't know. That's San Diego.
Somewhere?
It's on the planet. It's at Fenway.
Right, Fenway Park?
So we went out there, and then more advanced was out in LA. Actually, we had, I think Colorado Krav Maga hosted some sort
Really?
of advanced one, but so a lot of working with you'd meet other instructors and learn from them, pick up different things. We're going. I was probably that stage, probably still just very heavily like focused on instructor training.
Mhm.
You know, in that advanced zone, it was definitely going out and doing more seminars. So, but that
Yeah,
I was focused on that, and then would have um, guys you just meet that were near you and things that they're working through.
yeah,
But a lot of it was just in house, like Jack and I just putting in the time, training together,
sure.
teaching and learning that way. I mean, even sometimes in classes, if we were odd, you know, juggling the class and being a training partner. I mean, it definitely wasn't I would say a workout, but you're working. You're not killing yourself. I'm not you get a light sweat going, but you're not really working out because you're watching and on your reps, and even when you're holding the pad for somebody throwing front kicks, you're watching the class and seeing little things that you can bring them into the next huddle up and talk about as the instructor. But I was
Mm,
still getting some reps here and there, even just
mm,
walking around, getting reps here. Do one to me. Watch mine again instead of
yeah,
bringing in the entire class. Here you go. This is, you're doing this. I need you to do this. There's tons of those reps, just walking around and helping correct people instead of just, sometimes I say, like, you're just standing there. Get out there and coach, show people again. You don't always
yeah,
need to bring in the class to
yeah.
go, here what we're doing. Well, you're slowing down those other people
It
that
helps.
have, might be a higher belt in a class to bring them in again to go and talk about a beginner thing. I would, even group up. Hey, you two come on over here. Like, you guys, newer guys, come on over here.
Sure,
You know, got your other people, you bring them in for a different little huddle up and show them something.
sure.
So you're getting those reps there teaching. There's a lot, a lot of good reps you can get from teaching.
Yeah, and it really makes you learn more because when you go to teach it, you don't want to look like a jackass. You want to know what you're doing, right? You want to be able to hand that off to the next person in the best possible way,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's your obligation if you're going to teach somebody self-defense is learn it as best as you can because it's your responsibility to share that with your students as you move on. So don't half-ass it. I guess is what I'm getting at there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, some of it is letting the other person figure it out too. you know, Like,
Sure.
you're going to pass it on and, show somebody. Like sometimes, I was hearing in a class this morning and just a lot of coaching through, and, you're doing the flower sweep and they weren't grabbing the hand. I'm like, look, if I was that guy's training partner, I would just stick out my hand and I wouldn't even tell him what he did wrong. I would just say, I don't know. I wouldn't correct him. I was just like, I stuck out my hand there. I don't know. Why did that sweep not work? Oh,
Yeah.
well, you didn't monitor that hand and control that hand. So the guy didn't post it out there and stick it
Yeah.
on the floor and stop the roll.
Yeah.
Instead of going, now grab the hand. He's going to learn faster if you just go, I don't know why. Instead of going, well, you're doing this, this, and this. But that
Yeah.
is part of, that intermediate stage that
Yeah.
sometimes you're, always showing, even just as a student, you're just, oh, here's what you're doing wrong. White belt, da 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 da. Do this, this, and this. And as you progress through, you start to realize just sometimes you don't even need to coach them through.
Yeah.
Just
Just
let them figure out their mistake of what they're doing wrong. Let them fill the positions. Like, I don't know, or ask the coach, but I don't feel your position. Slow it down a little bit. That's definitely something about like, from Taekwondo, coming in, I had that, slow, clean, being able to execute something really slow and show the movement and the control. Like the black belt forms were really tough, a lot of balance and control. I think I'm getting more that way the older I get. Slow it down, feel it. There's a stage to muscle through. We always say like beginner, like, okay, those beginners, let them go a little crazy, let them muscle the technique, let them be a little aggressive. But as you're pushing through the belt levels, slowing it down and feeling what the heck you're doing wrong and just trying to speed it up and go faster. I definitely emphasize that more, but that's a
yeah.
little bit more of a black belt
But this
conversation.
is where those seeds start to be planted, right? This is where you start to understand the things that require you to start taking the next steps in the intermediate belts. I mean, they're the biggest building blocks that get you out of novice. So, when did in the medium, or at least the mid belts, did the training become more intense? The expectations began to rise for for you from your teachers at that point, right? Because the matriculation is happening. When did their expectations of you really start to change about where you needed to be and of yourself, right? Like where where's that decision inside the mid belts to go, all right, I'm going up to black belt and beyond?
Well, a lot of it was self-imposed that I wanted to be good, especially if you're, talking Krav Maga, you're getting that intermediate belt level. I got to tell you, the pressure was on right, right from the get go. Quite honestly, if
Mm,
we're just focusing on Krav Maga,
mm.
that 30% of people fail the first phase, especially way back when. There's my favorite sippy cup.
Hey,
Um,
I'm thirsty. Let's just keep going.
um, it was 30% failure rate. So the pressure was on right from the get go. Now, did they let a lot of things slide in that first level? Yeah, because it's all new. You're a karate, you're a Taekwondo person.
Mm,
Way back when was there was some guy that did some Shaolin, whatever.
Kung fu stuff, yeah.
Yeah, there was a few random martial arts thrown in there, but for the most part, those were the big two that people
Mm,
were doing. Um, so we had things to fix, but the next stage, you're expected to be better on every stage. So I wanted to be good. I didn't want to come back and say I failed. There's plenty of people. So the pressure was kind of on right from the get go, especially being an instructor.
mm,
You know, I probably wouldn't have that same pressure as a white belt, trying to learn this and get it down.
mm.
There was a lot more pressure, and, in some aspects, that pressure might be good for some people,
Yeah.
as a beginner, like, hey, you're going to have to teach this, be really good at it. You're going to have to stand up in front of people. I don't typically do that in a basic level, even testing. Like
Mm,
intermediate, you might be like, all right, demonstrate this or tell me the teaching points. We don't, expect that from our beginners.
mm,
It's tougher, but it would put a whole lot more pressure on if you were like, okay, now you're gonna have to totally break down this technique, which you really
right.
should, but we don't put that type of pressure on people standing up at front and instructing the class. I had that right from the get-go.
Sure. Yeah, some people have problems with public speaking. Hey, at the so at the time, did you ever do video? I know it's real easy now to videotape ourselves on our phones to watch our technique. Did you have access to a camera where you were videotaping that and being able to watch back your performances?
I have not come across any camcorder VHS or whatever those little tiny things that went into your camcorder. Um, there's some random stuff from Taekwondo,
Yeah.
Krav Maga. Yeah, we've got a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I obviously did it. I did stumble across one that I was actually doing Bas Rutten with Sarah Macy, one of my Nantucket instructors who were doing uh, just the shadowboxing workout, I believe. I don't think it was on the heavy bag.
Mm,
Um, I think I had it on the gym TV. I think I had it on the gym TV at one point.
yeah.
Um, in there, of like there's some super old Coach John shadowboxing. So I was doing that, and that was probably around this intermediate stage, I bet,
Did it help
because I'm
your
kind of thinking where I was. I had um, probably the building built. I had a studio built. We had a little small. It was my old workshop that I built the house out of. I made that into a training room,
wow.
but then I built a essentially a two-bedroom cottage floor plan, and it was just wide open. Besides a
Wow.
little entry room and bathroom, changing room, all in one, and then it
Wow.
was just the two-bedroom little cottage, kitchen, uh, family room, but it was just wide open, no walls, nothing. It was just a big box, but it was a ready to be a two-bedroom cottage.
Wow. Yeah. And worked
So
out. So yeah, because you always say, find the best ways to evaluate what you do. And back then, it just people don't realize, you had to throw a tape and a big camera most of the time to
yeah,
get some stuff recorded. And now it's just your phone over in the corner that does all the work for you, right?
yeah.
How
I
things
mean,
have changed. What's the biggest change that's been with training in the past over the decades have you gone? Supplements, the availability of it, because getting information in the early belts a long time ago, you had movies you could watch, right? To see you get the VHS tapes and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely. The amount of information is the biggest thing that's changed.
mm,
It's so sometimes I think it's potentially too overwhelming for people. There's
mm,
too many videos out there. It's too easy to look and oh, look at that cool technique. I should learn that one. I mean, goodness gracious, you can find a ton of stuff that and in the days of like waiting for the next issue of Black Belt magazine to come out, you know, that's I think the biggest change is the world as we know it is just information is so readily available.
mhm,
So and being able to watch a video versus have your friend tell you I'm doing this and this and you're trying to picture it in your head
right.
for a
Now lift your
technique.
leg. Yeah, if you've ever like tried to learn something from a magazine, you kind of follow the pictures and you hope for the best, and you read a small little article blurb, belt, black belt. It was just things have changed. We can watch the technique across the world. Now we can zoom something if we had to, right, and watch
Oh yeah,
technique.
you could be at your house and you could you know be on FaceTime or whatever
Yeah,
and watch the person doing it. you know then telling somebody this is what you need to do
yeah,
on whatever technique it is.
yeah.
So that's it's the nice part of it all.
Mm,
But yeah, definitely that intermediate zone is a grind and pushing through it, or the rewards are so much better, when you get out of your own head and thinking you've got this. And
Right.
I think some of it, I don't know, everybody's different, that, they think they got it figured out and then they stop. I'm like, but you don't have it figured out because
Yeah.
you stopped. You stopped
Yeah.
training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's where sometimes people float martial arts because they like the beginning honeymoon stage.
Mm.
You know, they're just floating around like, oh, start a new one and got all this progress and this is cool and exciting. It's so much better than the last thing I did. And then a year later, whatever it is, kind of time frame, I would say around there,
Mm.
honeymoon's over, and I got this figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And you really don't. Um, it takes those reps. Unfortunately, you can think you have it figured out, but it just takes that training, and it
So is
takes a
this
certain mindset to make it further. That's a little bit more advanced conversation.
sure? Now's the hardest hit for the Dunning Kruger because now you're vastly overestimating the skill set that you have, even though it might be
It's so
okay.
much better than when you started.
Yeah.
That's where I always say, hey, that's a good front. You're doing good. Good front kick,
Mm-hmm.
but it's good for a yellow belt. It's good for an orange belt.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. No, nobody's saying when you're throwing a front kick when you're orange belt that's expert level.
Mm-hmm.
People. I always constantly say that to people. I'm like, that's good. It's good for where you're at. Now keep working
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Nothing I say right at this moment is going to make something click
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to magically fix it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, like, I made a comment to a green belt today, and it was just that you're pushing your punch, just try to relax. And that's it. Sometimes there's time for a deeper conversation, but, you're a green belt. You're at that intermediate stage.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to keep throwing punches. You got to feel the bad ones. I
Mm-hmm.
was working with Bill this morning, in the class because the class was odd, and as we talked about, Bill's like, I'm going back to basics, and in some aspects, I've always gone back to basics because you're always teaching the basics as the instructor, especially like even when you're teaching so much. You're teaching 3 classes, 4 classes in a day. Like, you're going back to basics all the time. And as an advanced student, that's a really good thing to do. Class was odd, so I was working some of my cert pistol stuff, but I jumped in and did some training with him just to make the class even and give Bill, the highest belt was a green belt, and they couldn't hope for his power on tie pads. I mean, they could. You would have to dial back and scale his training back. So I jumped in with him. Um, he was throwing the hook punch. He's like, "What am I doing? Do you ever do something and you don't know why you're doing it?" I'm like, "Yeah, just tell yourself to stop doing that." I don't stop.
Story of my life. Why am I doing this?
I don't know why you're throwing that hook punch. Just stop throwing that hook punch. But even at that level, you got to go back and refine,
Yeah.
and you have to throw it. And that's where sometimes I'm like, is it automatic, or were you really good at whatever belt, but then you let it slip and you didn't keep up on it because, yeah, I got hooked, and you didn't continue to grind away and spend hours because then there's something else to train, and I've got to devote my training time. It's really tough that way. So, well, listen,
It
I
is.
was going to make an announcement, but I've got to get rolling here. I've got a tight day. I think that kind of rounds up intermediate, and a couple flashback pictures. Maybe I'll bring a couple more from the archives out, especially these are all, I guess I showed you guys one Krav Maga one. So when I started, but all the rest of them were, Taekwondo stages and flashback pictures. But the biggest thing, guys, is grind away, and you got to put in the reps. I don't know how many times we have to say it. Yeah. Does it suck? Yeah. Let's suck less. Put in the time. It's not easy to get really good at whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have to put the time on the floor. whatever it is, you want to get strong. Well, you got to squat, you got to deadlift, right? You got to bench press. And it's just not going to magically happen. You got to put in the reps, and even something like that. I think, I'm always refining and thinking about my bench press. It's not ever going through the motions, it's working it and feeling that, like respecting the movement, where it's, I think
Yeah.
we're saying the other day, and we'll make a side thing on this, but, I don't like certain aspects of CrossFit because people focus too much on the time and the number. And that is happening a lot to our, especially high, intermediate to advanced belts in Krav Maga. They're just focused on a number, and they're just trying to get to a number. You're just trying to get those 50 burpees done, and who cares how good they are, just trying to go fast. I got to race the clock. I got to get them done. But they're crap. It's not respecting the movement. You did half a squat or, whatever, you're not feeling the muscles contract at the top of the bench press. I was talk about it going through the motions. It's certainly better than nothing, but
Sure.
it's not being connected to your body. And that's a big thing with our upper belts. I really kind of have started to say, they're just chasing that number. And when they get to that number, they think they're there. Like, I got 50 burpees done and I got this all done and I beat you. I'm at that number. Well, it's a minimum number, first of all. So I'm going to be taking away the number in our advanced belt requirements, that I think people are chasing a number instead of chasing reps. But that could just be me. But that's what I kind of get the feeling, that it's just trying to get to the number. I'm just getting there. When I get there, I'm going to be this belt. You're not necessarily there. Somebody might get there shorter, but typically not. Yeah, just keep putting in the time, gang. Yeah, I know it's tough, but the reward is worth it if you can make it. Whatever you're doing, keep grinding away. You're out there playing tennis, keep grinding away. The reward of that high level understanding of something is freaking awesome. So you got to do it. Put in the time. Oh, look, I left the ticker up there for a super long time.
Just leave it going.
I was looking at your beautiful hair that you're going to shave off when we get 1 million.
We're not shaving my head. Stop, man. My sippy cup and my hair stay. What are you going to... He's going to beat me up.
I'm like, no. I let you keep your hair, but I might take the sippy cup.
What's wrong with the sippy? Why do you hate my sippy cup?